And welcome to Wrocław in Poland. The Miejski here, the host of what should be an intriguing friendly match between Japan and Brazil. A bit of a treat for you here on ESPN on a Tuesday afternoon. Two sides approaching. Well, the rain falling, distinctly un-Brazilian conditions. And it should be quite a test for both these sides. $42,000 this arena holds. It's far from full, but it should still be intriguing. This is the Brazilian side. Neymar starts up front alongside Hulk, with Kaká playing in behind. A debut for Leandro Castan of Roma. And Thiago Silva, the captain of Paris Saint-Germain, plays alongside David Luiz in the centre of the defence of Mano Menezes. And of course, this is a coach who is under severe pressure back in Brazil after his team has dropped to an unbelievable 14th in the world rankings. They play today a Japanese side that is in tremendous form. They've lost just 2 of their last 15 matches. They're on the brink of qualifying for the next FIFA World Cup already, and they come fresh from a tremendous performance at the Stade de France, where they beat France with a late goal from Kono to pull off one of the best results in their recent history. You can see the referee, Marcin Borski, shouldn't have a great deal to do today. There is Thiago Silva alongside Makoto Hasebe of Wolfsburg. This is the Japanese side. Yasuyuki Kono was very much the hero in that match against France. A big Bundesliga influence on this side, and one of the most interesting things is that Shinji Kagawa and Keisuke Honda both play, because that's one of the problems for Alberto Zaccheroni, is how to fit them both into the same team. It's a big debate back home. It'll be fascinating to see just how it pans out here today. Zaccheroni's done a pretty good job, the vastly experienced Italian coach. Of course, so many stories in Serie A for him, and now a significant international one. Jim Beglin is alongside me. I think one of the most interesting things about this game is it's two young sides who look to peak in the World Cup in 2 years' time.
Yeah, and arguably the best Japanese squad ever. And I mean, he's got lots more options available to him as well. And they're talking about making it to the quarterfinals of the World Cup in Brazil, should they get there to begin with. So lofty ambition for Japan. And of course, Brazil, I know Menezes has been pilloried. He's taking criticism from all quarters, but this is still a very formidable Brazil side. And of course, he's got umpteen options available to him, should he want to compile a different squad.
Yeah, well, so much was placed upon the Olympic Games, the gold medal that Brazilian footballers have never won. And they placed so much importance on that, and beaten in that final by Mexico, they had to settle for silver, and people weren't happy with it. I guess in a way he'll have to recover from that ahead of the World Cup in 2014, for which, needless to say, Brazil do not have to qualify, which is why these friendly matches become so important for them. As for Japan, they will have their eye on another surprise. They'll be committed and energetic and fit, and a lot of experience and a lot of skill as well. Goal kick to be taken by Diego Alves of Valencia, who has turned in the last couple of seasons to one of the most outstanding keepers in Europe. Bounces over the head of Ramirez, picked up by Hasebe. Just safety first there from Kiyotake. Does look to be a significantly soggy surface here, the ball not running as truly as it might, but it's a good bright start from Japan.
Yeah, and I think that gives us an indication that the Japanese players seem to be operating these days without the fear factor anymore. For a long time they didn't really believe they belonged at a higher level, but I think that's gone. There's a great confidence in what they do now, and of course that win you mentioned at the Stade de France last week is a huge fillip for them.
Good hassling and harrying, and here's Shinji Kagawa. Just tries to help it forward towards Nakamura. Neymar just trying to turn inside. Because Neymar plays where he does at Santos, it does always feel like a thrill to watch him and get a chance to see him play in Europe. Almost feels a bit like the old days where you heard about players and then finally got to see them in Cup Winners' Cup finals and European Cup finals and things like that. A lot of talk about Neymar and not many see him regularly. Good start this though from Japan. Here's Yuto Nagatomo of Inter Milan. Now Kaka, as Brazil look to break. Beautifully flighted pass here for Neymar. Yoshida, the man who has to get back. So many options, one of them's Ramirez. And then he in turn chose the wrong option, but there you see the danger. Zaccheroni said they would press Brazil and attack them, Jim, but there's the danger of doing so.
Well, I mean, it was brilliant initially from Brazil, the ball from Kaká. The first touch from Neymar was absolutely perfect. Did the right thing, waited for the support. For me, Ramirez should have hit it. I don't know why he's looking for the pass. It opened up for me, he had a chance to dispatch it and chose not to. Mistake.
Cleared away by Eiji Kawashima, now of Standard Liège. By the way, the last time Jim saw this Japanese side in action, he was watching them in the 2010 World Cup when they lost the game that would never end against Paraguay.
Yeah, there's one in every World Cup that you don't want to be at, and unfortunately, I was there that day against Paraguay. 0-0, 120 minutes of relatively nothing, and it was decided on penalties, and Japan went out. They've been getting close to that quarter-final berth I referred to before, and you know, maybe this squad can finally produce and get that far. I mean, they're going very well in qualifying at the moment. 3 wins and a draw in Australia.
Yeah, they have 3 games coming up, and feel at the end of that, after the next 3, that they should be safely through. They were the first team to qualify for South Africa, apart from the hosts, of course, and they may well be the same this time round. I just have a feeling, Jim was mentioning at the start, the number of young players who aren't in this squad who will really strengthen things. They will feel they're a side with a chance of quarterfinals at least. Of course, all the pressure will be on Brazil, who will slightly unfairly be expected to win. Lovely touch again there from Neymar. Now Hulk, his first chance to try and cut inside on that left foot. Oh, it's a great pass. And Oscar made the run and just couldn't hook it under the crossbar.
If he'd had a little look behind him, just briefly, Oscar, he would have known he had more space then, because, you know, you want to really send Hulk down on the outside on his right foot, but he just had a little bit more room than he thought. Felt he had to take it first time, Oscar, and very difficult skill to execute, to try and get over that and keep it down and trouble Kawashima. But that's going to be the fascinating duel today for me, as to whatever the Japanese do going forward is one thing, but can they cope with the flexibility of movement you get from Brazil? Can they keep their shape and retain an organisation?
Hulk again, just trying to flick it in field for Oscar. Here's Kagawa. Good take there by Nakamura, but dispossessed in the end by Paulinho.
And he's pretty much operating, Kagawa, isn't he, from the left side. It's a 5-man midfield, really, which you expected from Japan, just to try and contain and frustrate Brazil in midfield.
Well, having a bit of success going forward as well so far, Japan, and they do break at pace and with intent. And that was a poor clearance from Thiago Silva. And the final ball just letting Japan down as they try to pick out Kagawa.
If he was aware of his bearings then, I think Thiago Silva, he could have just left that, because I think it was going to go harmlessly wide. And it was a poor clearance, you know, he almost handed an opportunity back to Japan.
Unbeaten in their last 4 matches, Japan up to 23 now in those world rankings. That don't necessarily mean a great deal, but they're a good badge of honour if you're an upwardly mobile team. Space again for Hulk. You don't want to give him too much of that.
That's what I was talking about before. That's where you want to send him. You want to send him onto his right side, and he's weaker than Hulk, not as effective.
Here's Honda. Forward by Kono. Touched by Hasebe. Endo. Cracking into play, and it's a good strike as well. Decent save by Diego Alves. The two sides that are finding space and using movement to great effect so far.
Well, it was a stroll for Brazil against Iraq, you know, and then they notched up 6 goals. It was too easy for them. Well, I think they've already learned in the first 10 minutes of this game that it's going to be a lot tougher, because Japan have not only improved immensely defensively, but they've got much more about them going forward, and that was again a very sharp move on their part.
Hasebe. There's Hondo. Was he fouled? Referee says no. And now it's Ricky Kaka. size of the crowd. They are making a decent noise, but soon they'll be wanting some more goalmouth action, I'm sure. Endo. Now Kagawa. Honda in front of him. And now Nagatomo. First chance for him to just try and take on Adriano.
Yeah, and again, you know, he's all right foot. Nagatomo wants really to cut inside, but Adriano played him on the outside and again made it more difficult. But this is a lovely ball from Endo, the little layoff from Kagawa, and he drew a good save from the goalkeeper, did Honda. This is good football, just to open up Brazil. And you feel with the opportunity he had then, Honda, then it wouldn't have been at the goalkeeper, it would have been in either corner.
Jim was mentioning Brazil. They do travel the world, they travel Europe these days. They beat Iraq 6-0 last week in Malmo, in Sweden. And, next time after this, it's Colombia in New Jersey in November. Here's Neymar. Oh, it's lovely play, and Oscar's little back heel just couldn't quite pick out Neymar. Great idea, though.
I'm quite impressed so far with Japan. I know it's still early against the Brazilian side, you can't get carried away, but I think they've looked assured, they've looked composed on the ball, and very confident, and obviously all as a result of that late winner at Saint-Denis.
Yeah, that was some performance. Blueprint of how to counter-attack away from home. They managed to restrict France to not too many chances. They created a couple of their own, and then they caught them late with a wonderful goal from a French set piece, and they went to the other end and nicked it, and deservedly so. There weren't too many smiling French fans after that game.
I know France will be kicking themselves, Dave, because it came from their own corner and Japan cleared it and broke, and it was a bad goal for France to concede, but you know, wonderful commitment to attack from the Japanese. Got plenty of players in the box.
Lovely play from Kaká to tee it up. Really well taken goal. Lovely strike from Paulinho, and Brazil, despite Japanese pressure, take the early lead.
Well, he's just given a little bit too much room, isn't he? I didn't think he was going to have the shot. They just didn't close him down quickly enough, and I must admit, he catches it beautifully, Paulinho. And he's the guy normally who just plays the anchor role. Maybe Kawashima could have done a little bit better, could have been a bit sprightlier in getting across, but it is well placed in the corner. That's a wonderful strike.
His second goal for his country, after he scored previously against Argentina in the first leg of that ill-fated Super Clásico de las Americas. The second leg has been delayed because there was a floodlight failure, but it was a really well-taken goal, technically brilliant. And you don't want to lapse into cliche about all the Brazilian players being talented, but it's not bad if you have a defensive midfielder who can strike the ball with the outside of his right foot like that.
That's what I'm saying. I was fortunate enough to cover a couple of Brazil games last November against Gabon and Egypt, and you know, there's a lot of criticism been aimed their way, but they're still, you know, fantastic to watch. They're still a hell of a good outfit, but it's nothing but the best. That's why the criticism is there. They've got to produce the very best, or else. And there's huge talent, not just in this squad, but he has lots and lots more to call on as well, does Mano Menezes.
Well, that's a good early nerve settler, if indeed there were any nerves. Forward by Endo for Honda. Again, it's impressive movement from this Japanese side. Man on the ball always has options, although that was well read by Adriano. Kaká wants it and gets it. Just wonder if the Kaká of 5 or 6 years ago would have accelerated away there and got a shot in.
Well, I remember him doing that, of course, for his goal against Iraq. He scored one of the goals last week, and it was very easy for him, and not so easy against Japanese players who are quick to get behind the ball.
Honda. Referee's determined to let this one flow, which is good news for us, and that's a fine pass. Offside flag was up. Kagawa couldn't finish anyway.
Looked the right call. It looked as if the Man United man had just gone a fraction early. When it was played, yes, it's a good call. It's an easy call for the assistant. Diego Alves was out quickly to him anyway, so it forced him to go a little wider, and as a result, the side netting.
But yet again, it was really good build-up play. And certainly signs that Japan can hurt Brazil.
They have better players now, Japan, and a huge amount of them. I think over half the squad are based in Europe these days, and that's why they've improved. I think they're much more effective in possession these days. There's much more guile about them on the ball in attack.
But on this side, it's only Kono and Endo who are based in Japan. And that shows you just how far and wide they're spread. The flag stays down here. It's a chance for number 2. Not just for Brazil, but for Paulinho. But he couldn't take it. And once the flag had stayed down, he had to score.
This is fantastic running. This is from the deepest lying midfielder as well. And again, he's made a brilliant burst through the middle. I think he should take it now. I think he should have tried to play it in. Instead, he's tried to play it behind the Japanese player who's managed to get back on the line, Nagatomo, and he's gone and missed it. Should have been 2.
Well, I know that Nagatomo was there, but given that he'd sort of lost his bearings a bit, that's pretty much an open goal.
Oh, without doubt. As I say, I think he should have just gone for it a fraction earlier and played it in front of Nagatomo, and I think had he done that, he probably would have registered the second for Brazil.
Although credit to Nagatomo for at least making him think. Well, it was worth chasing a hopeless cause.
Absolutely, and ultimately it's paid off for him, because, he's tried to redirect his effort, and he's gone for behind Nagatomo in the hope of getting it in on, just inside that far post, and it's worked. Well done, the fullback.
They do have that almost casual quality that can break you down, Brazil. It's always what you're up against. Even on a bad day, they have that. Now Nagatomo, having done a good defensive job, looking to get forward. Forward by Uchida. That will just run in behind Ramirez.
I mean, it's a poor header, isn't it, to start it all off from Uchida, but, Oscar plays the simple ball. I don't know, maybe I'm being harsh on the goalkeeper, thinking he could do a little bit better. As soon as it hits the greasy ground, it's away. But it is very well struck. It's almost towed, isn't it, really, from Paulinho? And not a good goal from a Japan perspective, but very well struck.
Yeah, I must admit, from the angle we initially saw it from, it looked like one of those that had swerved from outside the post back in, but it didn't do that, and the keeper may have a little look at himself. Although I know what you mean, it's one of those where you feel you're being a bit harsh to criticise.
Yeah, it was just inside the post, wasn't it? So it was very well placed, and it always makes it that much harder for a goalkeeper, of course. But and again, that greasy surface, if the ball is just landing ahead of the goalkeeper, and then it's away.
It is going to be fascinating over the next couple of years, and we're getting a chance here, of course, on ESPN, just to see how this Brazil side develops and how realistic a chance they have of winning their home World Cup. course, they're always going to have a chance, but this is a country that has underperformed badly in the last 2 World Cups. Gone out at the quarter-final stage. France and then the Netherlands. And they will need a lot better than that.
I think a lot of the criticism has been directed at the fact that there's a lot of European-based players now, of course, in this Brazil setup too, and that European discipline has kind of affected them, and it's taken away from the samba flair. I know Socrates' criticism was geared towards that. The play is too patterned, too organised, and that kind of natural instinct, that flair on the ball, he would like to see return.
But then again, can you win a World Cup these days doing that?
That's what I mean. I think the coach is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. I think he's going to be criticised roundly, come what may. Football-obsessed country like that and hosting it, they've got to win it. End of.
Yeah, Dunga was too defensive, so you get criticised for that, and then you get criticised for being naive. Really can't win. It's a tough old job for Mano Menezes. His side ahead here, though, but Japan trying to change that. Kagawa was waiting, an important stretch there by Thiago Silva.
Just a little push on Oscar by Hasabi.
The last meeting of these sides was back in the World Cup in 2006 when Brazil won 4-1. Looked very, very convincing in that tournament, and then they ran into Zizou. Here's Thiago Silva. Terrific turn by Hulk.
It was a great first touch in the end, and Nagatomo did well to stay with him. I just think the Japanese have been stunned a little by the goal and then the follow-up when Paulinho probably should have added a second, and it just seems to have knocked them back at the moment, because that pluckiness, that kind of boldness we saw early on is not quite there at the moment.
Sonny there just watching Hulk in action and thinking what a perfect asset he would have been to the Premier League. So nearly joined Chelsea, but in the end went to Zenit. Of course, he could still come to the Premier League, but just seems perfectly built for English football for me. Anyway, they've got Oscar, and he's not been bad. Here's Thiago Silva, another who made a big money move in the summer. Now David Luiz.
No, but they seem to have wrestled a control on the game now. One or two little early sparks from Japan, but Brazil look very comfortable at the moment.
Yeah, the goal from Paulinho certainly settled them down. It should be 2-0. The same player going clean through and around the goalkeeper and side-footing wide. You don't quite feel that Brazil could score at will, but you certainly feel they could score again, and then maybe again. They look like they're in the mood today. Here's Kaká. Great running ahead of him from Adriano. And plenty of options in the middle, one of whom here is Kaká. That was a hand, and it's a penalty. Good spot from the referee. The Japanese players complaining, but I think Kono, the hero of Friday night, slipped, and I think he handled the ball, Jim.
Yeah, I think it certainly hit his arm, but did he play the ball or did the ball play him? That's, I think, the issue here. I think it might be a little harsh. It looked as if Kaká was just going to strike it, then he thought, no, I'll just take a touch. And of course Kono has gone to the ground by then. Just watch Adriano, makes a great burst, pulls it back, and he just chooses not to. I think it's harsh. I'm not sure he can get out of the way. I think he's just tried to play around him, and it's hit his body and then hit his arm, and I think it's an unfortunate decision against Japan.
Yeah, I must confess, I thought the secondary movement of his arm had caught the ball there, but it didn't. I suppose it's one of those you can see why he gave it, but here's Neymar with a chance to make it 2. Big moment here for Kawashima. Confident run, isn't it? And he had every right to be confident, because that's a superb penalty kick. 25 minutes played and Brazil already 2 goals to the good here.
Yeah, and they are making it look very easy now. They're playing within themselves, and Neymar here, a little hesitation in the run-up. You know, it's not the greatest in terms, it's not in the corner, and the goalkeeper Kawashima has guessed the right way, but he got the height on it. The goalkeeper has gone low, Neymar went high, and that will do.
Well, it feels like a long road back now for a Japanese side, of course, that was so buoyant after that victory in France. And they would have come into this game with real confidence of another big scalp, but it looks a long way away now. It'll be a good test of their spirit, and Zaccheroni will be keen to see that. There's Ramirez doing that important job. Honda. Nakamura. Oh, lovely pass over the top, back to Honda. And headed behind in the end by Adriano.
I think that area is a problem for Brazil, because between Leandro Castan and David Luiz, that's a couple of times Japan have gotten in there. And, you know, Honda's the one that's alive to that.
There is space there to be exploited. Maybe a set piece to be exploited here. And I mentioned a test of their spirit, we've seen it already. But beware the counter-attack. Good play from Honda, and Nakamura was offside. Well, a wet day, a far from capacity crowd, they're producing a decent game for us.
Absolutely. I think with the confidence of the Japanese, I think you knew that they'd probably come out nice and bright, which they did, but Brazil are a class act, no matter what's said about them, and they've got so much quality in their team and their squad that it's very difficult to suppress and subdue that. And they look in control. To me, Brazil, they're just at will. Whenever they feel it, they can step it up and play their way through.
That time tried to bend the run, but didn't do it in time.
Ochida right back was a little lazy. He could have been up with his teammates, but he's just off. And it's a blow for Japan, because I'm sure in the dressing room after the French game they would have been saying, look, let's keep it tight. First half an hour, give them nothing, stay in the game, and let's see where we can take it from there. And of course that's all gone now.
There's Honda again. Terrific passing, and then maybe the surface just let him down. And now Brazil so dangerously on the counter. 5 players forward. This is Neymar, and Neymar to make it 3. And he had so many options, but went alone, and will have frustrated his teammates.
Yeah, it was all down to Ochida again, and once Kaká got a chance to run, he does the sensible thing. And just look at Neymar. I mean, it's hopelessly wide, but he knows the goalkeeper's coming out to him, so he tried to actually lift it. He tried to smack it high. Just didn't get it right.
Sure, it's a day on this surface to be doing that. Goalkeeper as well. Did well in the end, Kawashima, after being played into trouble by Kono. But now it's relentless, this from Brazil. This is Hulk.
I think what Mano Menezes will really have enjoyed as well as Paulinho. As you say, normally he's quite deeper in midfield, but you know, he's made through very carefully picked runs forward, and one's produced a goal, the other one should have, you know, and it's lovely to see a defensive midfielder supporting the attack like that and benefiting hugely.
Yeah, it's a real bonus performance from him so far. Nakamura, well read by Ramirez, and now Hulk.
That was supposed to be with the outside of the left foot for Neymar, and again he got it wrong too.
%55 possession for Brazil, and that's no great surprise. Look at the scoreline if you're just joining us and think Brazil have been absolutely dominant and deserve a two-goal cushion. I'm not sure that's been the case. It was an excellent strike from Paulinho, and then after he'd missed a sitter, the penalty, a slightly controversial one scored by Neymar. There's been lots of this from Japan, and Diego Alves has to make another good save, this time from Hasebe, the captain.
Yeah, it was a very good strike, and you know, they might be limited to this, Japan, you know, something from long range. They're just going to have to take the opportunity when it presents itself, and Luiz was just a little distant from him, and it was a very good strike from Hasebe through the legs of Luiz. That's a great stop, Diego Alves.
Another good corner, and headed behind for another corner for Japan.
That's mostly zonal as well, isn't it, from Brazil? Just happy to have several yellow shirts along that 6-yard box.
Thiago Silva that time. Yeah, flag must be up against Kagawa. And actually, for the second time, even though he's been offside, he's missed a great chance.
Yeah, and that was a much easier one. On the turn, admittedly. But he just a little too slow in reacting, and as soon as the header comes back from Nagatomo, he is offside.
Well, what an impact he's made at Manchester United. I think anyone who'd seen him play for Dortmund wasn't too surprised. But he's certainly been a new name thrown onto the Premier League scene in England.
I like him. I'm not sure he's best used in this position for Japan. I think if you had given him the opportunity, he'd prefer to play the Manchester United role, just off the striker. Inside, playing centrally.
Forward for another corner. Endo and Kagawa combining. Close-up look at the skills of Keisuke Honda there. Brazil just fell asleep a bit here, and it's played in by Kagawa. Still there from Honda. And now Hulk. Booming pass there from Hulk. Neymar held the line, he did, he's onside. Again, Brazilian players swarming forward, chance to place it. Kaká so unlucky. Rueful smile, could have been 3.
Deserved to go, and it was passed by Kaká. Beautifully controlled, and he's just kind of tried to pick his spot and very unfortunate to see it come back off the woodwork, but I think that right side of Japan's defence, to me, doesn't look too strong, particularly Uchida today. I think he's struggling.
Yeah, plays at a high level and does so very well for Schalke. Hasn't looked quite himself. Kaká revelling in this role and in the space he's being granted as well. Now Adriano. Lovely interplay once more, and this is Hulk. Brazil could easily have had 4 goals in this opening 35 minutes. Probably should have done.
Yeah, they could have. And I mean, I'm talking at the start about Japan's improvement defensively. Only conceded 1. Okay, it's not the strongest World Cup qualifying group. Only conceded 1 in 4 so far. Clean sheet, Stade de France. But I think they've been poor defensively today. I think it's let them down. And I think the problem is sometimes the centre-backs have got no centre-forward to mark because Neymar's drifting all over the place, and I think it's the same for 1 or 2 of the others. You know, Kaká's started on the left, he's been popping up on the right-hand side. How do you deal with that kind of movement and players just drifting out of position? And I don't think Japan have coped.
Well, what very good football teams do, and great ones as well, is set you a series of tests. And Brazil do that. Instantly issues for Japan to deal with defensively. Even the most basic ones, like which position to take up, before you've even thought about playing.
That's just a little pullback from Neymar. Space on the edge of the box. Keeper's beaten all ends up, Kawashima. And Kaká, very unfortunate. Deserved better.
Again, it's just that casual brilliance, isn't it? The languid swing of the right boot, just as you said, passing it in. Yellow card for challenge there on Kiyotake. Shown to Ramirez. That's why.
Yeah, he's just a little late. I mean, it looks worse. It's just slightly mistimed. I'm sure he's not intending to do that. It's been very, very fairly played up to now.
Takes some doing to be booked in a game like this that's as pleasant and passive at times. Chance, though, for Japan to get back into it, because Brazil should be out of sight here. Here's Neymar.
I think very important as well for Japan in this game now to try and make sure it doesn't worsen before half-time, that it remains like this or it improves slightly if they can manage it. And I'm sure Alberto Zaccheroni would just kind of then be able to get them to regroup and just have a look at things. And at 2-0 down, you can still mount a challenge second half. If it goes to 3, then you feel it's probably gotten away from them against opposition of this calibre.
He's an interesting old character, Zaccheroni. As in his time, coached Milan, Lazio, Inter and Juve. Twice in his career has been replaced in jobs by Roberto Mancini. Lazio and Inter. Often been a firefighter coach, but it's good to see him get a chance, a run at a job, if you like. Flick from Adriano. Now Kaká. Here's Ramirez. Excellent running by Adriano, and Neymar just couldn't get his neck muscles around it. Honda. Was he being dragged back by David Luiz? He was, and it might be a second yellow card of the game for a Brazilian player.
Well, he looked to have the arm up, David Luiz. I think Honda probably made the most of it as well. He was looking for a little bit, I think, the Japanese.
And he has shown him the yellow card. A Polish referee that's in the mood. I have to be honest, I secretly quite like the proper rules of football being applied in friendly games, rather than just let everything go. Makes it a better game at the end of it. We had a brief glimpse there of Mano Menezes, the Brazilian coach, and he must be pretty happy with this. The problem he's got is these kind of games are the ones in which you can only lose. If you beat Japan, you were supposed to. If you do anything but, then it's underperforming. And that, I'm afraid, is going to be the case all the way up to the World Cup.
Yeah, that is the issue. I mean, he has got to keep them motivated. He's got to keep a purpose and an urgency about their play, and he basically can't have them slacking. And I think he gets that. I think the attitude he gets is pretty good from his players.
That's Neymar caught from behind, caught on the ankle. I think some of the Brazilian players are saying, well, if our two cards, why isn't that? Challenged by Uchida.
That's lovely from Kaká, really lovely.
On reflection, Japan were pretty lucky with the rebound there, weren't they? I think anywhere else that it was a tap-in for somebody, it went in the only place that could have saved them. One of the great things about watching Brazil in these friendly games is that they always make life entertaining. I watched a game fairly recently between them and Sweden in which they almost played at walking pace, but still turned on the style, still looked brilliant when they needed to. Pato came on that day and scored a couple.
It's always a treat to watch them. They've got so many top players, so many skillful players. It's always something a bit more special, even if this side doesn't live up to the samba flair that we saw in 1970, etc.
Great play from Ramirez. Helped forward by Oscar. The referee just had a second look at that, but allows play to go on, probably correctly. First touch there from Kaká. He may have lost some of his powers, but not all of them. And then in from Ramirez, and just drifts behind. But again, they just went up a gear and turned on the style a bit, and they do look good when they do that.
It's just the movement that's so hard to deal with. There's very little contact, if any, from Neymar. Might have just clipped his back slightly, but yeah, when they want to, and they just kind of that little burst, that extra little bit of pace and movement around the box, and Japan are just struggling to cope.
Positive ball there though, and was a testing cross, turned behind by Thiago Silva.
Was that left side again, and the skipper is trying to sort it out, isn't it? Leandro Castan should be dealing with that better.
There's a Japanese head on it, but comfortably through to the keeper. The header from Yoshida. The problem poor old Leandro Castan has got is that he's used to playing in a team that plays entirely differently to this at Roma. And I think it would take some adapting. Plays at centre-half in Zdenek Zeman's crazy system.
Well, I think, you know, it's only natural at times. I think Leandro Castan is just drifting positionally, and that's what you need. You need your skipper to stand up and just kind of try and sort it out and say, look, got to get more from you.
Well, hopefully there will be more from him, and hopefully much more from this game as well. It's been richly entertaining so far, I hope you agree. Despite the rain, despite the fact we don't have a capacity crowd, but Brazil lead, it could be a lot more. Paulinho with a lovely strike, Neymar with a penalty. Much more to come, but half-time is Japan 0, Brazil 2. Every boot has a message, doesn't it? Not just the colours, but Honda there with the initial ones, and all in for 2014 as well. As we get back underway, Japan must start positively, must try and grab a goal, and then we could have a game again. Brazil, by the way, unchanged. But they won't remain that way, I'm sure. As David Luiz clears it away. Throw taken by Leandro Castan. Just a shove in the back by the new man Shakai. Must be so hard to keep motivated if you're Brazil, especially with club commitments as well. But they know as a unit they must keep doing this and grinding out results and keeping fresh and focused for 2014.
Well, I think, you know, Mano Menezes at any one time could probably pick 3 very good squads, and I think it should speak for itself really in terms of the competition that's there. And I think if I was part of that Brazil squad, if only, I'd be thinking, you know, that there's a couple of guys just waiting to step in here any second. So I think that's there all the time, and that purpose about them, that application should always be there from the players because of that.
Here's Castan. And Neymar so confident in just drifting out wide and taking up that position and going for goal. Oh, it was a nasty deflection, but in the end it took it wide.
But again, you know, that's that position he loves to pick up on the left-hand side, and he did it against Iraq where he stepped inside and curled a beautiful goal into the far corner. That time, deflection got in the way, but you know, that's what he loves to do. He loves to drift in from the left.
Talking of beautiful goals curled into corners, guess who's taking the corner? Swung deep by Oscar. Oh, and taken by Neymar and deflected it. Oh, he didn't catch it at all. It's desperately unfortunate. It might even be an own goal. But whoever it's credited to, Brazil lead by a very convincing 3-0.
Yeah, and just watch Nagatomo. I mean, he makes the first mistake here. He just gets caught underneath it, the ball goes behind, and of course it's a big deflection that Kawashima can do nothing about. But Nagatomo, he was badly beaten to it, and it comes off
Hasebe.
Yoshida. I think it was just inside that near post, but Nagatomo could have dealt with that. He misjudged it, got underneath it, and Japan have paid again.
Plenty for them to celebrate. And even in Poland, you can find a sombrero. Well, the goal's been credited there to Neymar, we shall see. And it's probably not really going to matter in a friendly international, but it'll matter to him. And it means, if it counts, that would be 7 goals in 4 international games for Neymar.
I think what they like to do, Dave, don't they, that if they think it's on target to begin with, and it takes a deflection on the way, then they usually allow it to stand for the guy taking the shot as opposed to an OG.
This is positive again from Japan. Trying to get Inui into the game. And that was a misjudgment from Diego Alves and bounces behind off Leandro Castan.
Well, it was. I mean, sometimes you don't get away with those, but that was a mistake from Diego Alves. Shouldn't have been even looking at that.
Honda's been very, very lively, and here he goes again, and there's a measure of whether it's your day or not. Deflection, but didn't take it goalwards.
Yeah, and could it have been dealt with between Oscar and Leandro Castan on the edge of the box? Probably should have.
Good ball again there by Honda. Great feet from Kagawa. Well, they deserve to have pulled the goal back here.
I thought that was in. I must admit, I can't believe it must have just whizzed past the post. That's really good movement and a lovely little ball to find him, and then he's got the trickery to do that, and it's through legs again. That's again extremely unlucky. That should have been a very quick reply from Japan to go 3 behind. And I think you can see from Menezes, he's unhappy that he just thinks with 3-0 it's all just gone a little casual at the back for Brazil, and they're not closing it quickly enough, and he's got a point.
We've answered a few questions about whether Honda and Kagawa can play together as well. There are the makings of a very good partnership there. And of course, really good players and clever players are able to work it out between themselves, aren't they?
Exactly.
There's Sakai. Full of energy. Really good tracking back by Oscar. So rarely makes the wrong decision. Thiago Silva just brought it out calmly and did the right thing.
Well, it's no surprise as to why PSG paid all the money they did to prize him from Milan, because he is one of the best in the world.
Yeah, he's in a very select view in terms of central defenders. Vincent Kompany would be in the same bracket probably, but there aren't too many others who are up there. Of course, he didn't want to leave Milan, but the offer was so good that they couldn't turn it down. That's how the story went anyway. I think Ibrahimovic would have taken a bit less prizing away. Of course, you do get the chance to still regularly follow the journeys of Thiago Silva and Zlatan Ibrahimovic's old club, Milan, and also the new one, Paris Saint-Germain, here on ESPN. It's played into Neymar. Oh, and it's given away. I think Kaká couldn't believe his luck.
Well, he should have made more of that. Again, Japan made problems for themselves, and it's just not right for them at the back today.
Honda. Kagawa. It's a fine challenge by Thiago Silva, but still alive for Honda. Can they force it through? They can't. Just kept in by Neymar for Kaká. So many options, Neymar, and tried to find Paulinho. Now Nagatomo. Kiyotake.
I think the reason we've seen flashes from Kagawa's second half is because he is playing more centrally now, and I think that suits him far better. I think he was a bit isolated in the first half, playing on the left-hand side. You know, he did drift in occasionally, but to actually have a position in there, in fact, at times he looks like the striker now. Honda just dropping a little bit off him, but you know, that's his cup of tea.
I suppose if you are going to try things, this is the place to do them. Friendly matches, but it does seem strange that Kagawa gets to play in his preferred position at a club the size of Manchester United, and then, despite the presence of Honda, not for the national side, which he is arguably the biggest star.
Yeah, and we wondered, we were talking half-time as well, Dave, about, you know, potential substitutions. Japan had to make a couple. Uchida was struggling. They needed a little bit more up front, and they've done that. But, you know, we could well see Brazil now with players headed back to their clubs, of course, for weekend's games. We could well see quite a few changes from them coming up, and they certainly made some against Iraq.
Well, it'd be good to see Leandro Damião. I know you haven't seen much of him, and he's a fantastic centre forward. Changes the way this side plays a bit as well. He's powerful. And Lucas Moura, the player who's going to light up Ligue 1 come January, to name but two. Marcelo, of course, is out for around about 3 months with that ankle injury, which will affect Real Madrid far more than Brazil. Picked up by Ramirez. Little tug of the shirt. He showed those yellow cards in the first half. I think Connor would be fortunate to escape there, and he is going to escape.
Well, you know, there's an innocent look on his face, and I think he claims he just nicked the ball there. I think that's what he's saying to the referee. Does he get a little piece of it? He does, you know. And it was a slip, really, from Ramirez then. I think the referee's been rather kind to Brazil there.
It's a fantastic ball in, a cute header back across, and just a sign that Brazil can do things in different ways. A little bit more direct there, and Neymar did so well to get on the end of it, but just couldn't direct it goalwards.
Just watch, as soon as the ball goes over his head, Leandro Castan gets it back. You know, he's in there looking for it, and Yoshida made it very difficult for him to get anything controlled at goal. It was just kind of a stretch, but it's very, very good movement, and he almost got there again.
Yeah, that would have been some finish for the hat-trick. Honda. Space again.
The Nui first touch, really poor. Just got a bit excited.
Now Kaká away from Hasebe. Here's Neymar. And still he goes. He's such a silky runner. And he tried one trick too many, but he's won himself a free kick. And Brazil might just have an option or two at this.
Yeah, it was Hasebe was the one who gave the foul away, and as the referee has just indicated, there was a tug on the shirt, but you know, he's taking the mickey out of Yoshida just ahead of him, and there was a little pull there which held him up as Kono tried to come out. It's kind of showboating a little bit now, because you know, Brazil are just playing at their leisure.
I think it might be Hulk to take over here with his power.
You do not want to be in a wall with Hulk. You just hope he gets it high or wide and it doesn't hit you, because for me this is the most powerful left foot in the world.
Yeah, set piece wise he's taken over certainly from Roberto Carlos, and unlike Roberto Carlos, he gets them on target occasionally. Hulk, here we go, it's Hulk! Deflection and post, and honestly it could be 5 or 6, and still might be with over half an hour to play. Leandro Castan. So eager to get on the ball, they're getting in each other's way. Oscar. There's Hulk. Paulinho. Prepared to take their time. Now Adriano getting involved. How impressive has he been today? And Ramirez to hit it. He has to get back now. Kagawa. Now Honda. Every time they counter, it always seems to drop at the feet of Kaká. Now Hulk, as Kaká spreads the play. Half a brilliant turn from Oscar.
Yeah, I mean, he was looking for the free kick in the end. I think the referee's got that one right. He was trying to con the referee, Oscar, and it was a lovely little flick back inside, but he went down way too easily.
There's Inui. Opens up here for Kagawa, and then for Honda. Oh, excellent defending. Yeah, they want a penalty.
Yeah. It's Honda. He just felt he was tripped by Adriano, who stuck a foot out. It's hard to say whether Adriano got anything on the ball. This is a lovely little ball to find. Honda didn't get anything on it, and there's probably a little bit of contact. For me, not enough. Not enough. I think Honda is looking for it. I think it would have been a cheap one if the referee had given it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a sprawling dive, wasn't it?
Tend to see a lot of that in the box these days.
If he'd stayed on his feet, he'd have had a chance of scoring still, but...
Yeah, and it was on his left side as well, you know, on his strong side. Honda.
Now Kagawa. There's Keisuke Honda again. Got a new lease of life here, Japan. Take a deflection behind, it did. Nagatomo with the run. This is that free kick.
Yeah, it just came off Inui. He was just basically standing in front of the goalkeeper. He knew very little about it as well, and I guess fortunate for Japan and unfortunate for Brazil.
Hajime Hosogai of Augsburg replaces Hasebe. There's that goal again for Neymar that took that big deflection. But will probably be credited to him. It's been impressive the way that Brazil have dismantled a very good side here. This will be up there in terms of their recent friendly wins, particularly if they can add a couple to the score. It's one thing beating Iraq 6-0, but this is quite another.
Yeah, and I mean, I mentioned that it's not the most difficult qualifying group for Japan, but they're in there with Australia, who have a very good record, of course, as well. And all the Aussie lads were very impressed with the Japan side they faced down under when they ended up drawing 1-1. Japan are a very good side and should stroll through that group. So I guess this is a bit of a knock to their belief and feeling that they might have hit a better standard than they have.
Japan can break again here, though. At least they could until Thiago Silva got involved. Now Oscar for Kaká. What was that about taking the mickey? Here's Neymar.
It's almost like a training session at times.
Flag was up, not against Kaká, but against Leandro Castan. That's what happens when you try and get left-backs involved in attacking play.
Now, take it easy. I think he just wasn't conscious of where the defensive line was, Leandro Castan. But, you know, Kaká looks as if he's enjoying himself. We know since he went to Real Madrid it's not worked out to his liking, nowhere near the player we saw at Milan. But he's got lots of freedom, lots of lots of good movement from him, and he's seen lots of the ball as well, and he's been very effective in this Brazil lineup.
Of course, the question that still remains, not just about him but about Brazil, is, and when we won't know the answer really until 2014, is they look great with the freedom, but are they strong enough to win the World Cup? Has Kaká still got it when he's up against Germany or Italy in the semi-final, say? And is this defence good enough as well?
I think one of the hardest things, you know, as from once the World Cup begins, particularly, they're under a lot of pressure now, but the pressure will rise 100-fold once the tournament kicks off.
But I think for now the job is to maybe remind fans that it's about enjoying it as well, and they can support one of the most enjoyable teams to watch in the world.
And the referee's just given another soft decision which upset the Japanese players to Brazil then, and I think he's had a little bit of a Brazilian bias today. I think it happens sometimes. You look after the superstars much more than the opposition.
Well, that certainly looked like a foul. He struggled to get into the game, Inui. Flashes of excellence, certainly. Just wondered if he's really known what position he's supposed to be playing out there. Here's Sakai. Always impresses me when I see him. Energetic right back, Sakai. Again, the movement, Jim, is excellent. There's Honda.
I think he's played very well, Honda. I think he's gotten himself involved, and there he is, not giving it up, trying to chase back and help out.
Hulk for Neymar. Good bit of defending momentarily, but I think it might be, well, Ramirez has got on the end of it, but the flag is up.
It's a goal, isn't it? I think he's given a goal kick. I think the officials feel
that the ball drifted out. Okay.
Not sure about that at all. I mean, Ramirez certainly felt it was a legitimate goal.
What I was wondering was, did the cross then back itself, or Ramirez got on the end of it?
I didn't see much curl on it, but, you know, maybe the replay will prove me wrong.
Anyway, no goal. Space here, an opportunity again for Japan. It's Honda on that left foot, but again, straight at the goalkeeper. I must admit, I'm looking forward to the replays of the goal that was just disallowed. Here we go.
How good is this? I mean, this touch is too strong from Neymar, but I think he keeps it in. That's not gone out. It's not curled back in. I don't know what the assistant's thinking of there. I think that's a perfectly good goal, and it's brilliant from this fella. I mean, it looks as if it's a dead end. He's managed to keep it in. It doesn't leave the pitch for me at any stage, and how the assistant can flag for the ball having drifted out, I do not know.
Well, it would almost be impossible for it to have drifted out, wouldn't it? If anything, it's curling back towards the goal. It's not coming out towards Ramirez, so a strange one there. I think they've been deprived of what would probably have been an irrelevant fourth, but still a fourth.
Yeah, if it was 0-0, I think it'd be a much bigger issue, let's put it that way. I think Brazil, I mean, you could see that a couple of the players were protesting, well, namely the two involved, Ramirez and Neymar, but ball was back in play quickly, so they're just getting on with it.
And Ramirez, of course, deprived of an international goal as well. He has 3 to his name. Sort of thing that would niggle at the end of your career. Ramirez, say, ends with 9 international goals. When someone asks him in years to come why he didn't get double figures, he thinks of that wet day in Poland in that friendly match.
Well, if anybody's going to get on the end of something like that as well, it would be Ramirez. I mean, we always remember that, you know, wonderful goal he scored for Chelsea in the second leg at Barcelona last season. He is a brilliant athlete, and he can make the ground up like that and chase lost causes, and I thought he did ever so well, and I think he has been robbed.
Kiyotake to take the corner. It's fascinating that, isn't it? 8 corners to Japan. It's just 1 for Brazil. They play with that width. Thiago Silva with the header.
No surprise to see Endo take the skipper's armband from Hasabi when he departed the pitch. Only got, this is 123 this today in terms of caps. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is remarkable. Gone above Masami Ihara in terms of Japanese caps. Leads the way with 123. Here's Leandro Castan. Defensive frailties, you see, but very, very good bringing it forward.
He is, but, you know, even on that note, not as effective as Marcelo. I mean, Marcelo is, and of course you've got Diego Alves as well on the other side. I mean, Brazil are blessed with that kind of talent from the fullback positions, and I'd be surprised if this guy, Leandro Castan, ends up starting the World Cup.
I must say, good though the goalkeeper Diego Alves is, it'll be Dani Alves.
I do beg your pardon, Dani Alves.
Just before someone writes in, Jim, it's one of those. But he's good though, the keeper. He's very good with his feet, the keeper.
Yeah.
Fantastic again to bring the wide man into play, and here's Honda. They're going to cause a lot of teams a lot of problems, Japan, if they keep this upward trajectory and keep playing this way. The problem is, this is Brazil. For all that their star has fallen, it hasn't fallen that much.
Yeah, maybe Honda could have done a little bit better there and got it back to Kiyotake, who took up a good position just behind them. The problem for Japan in this game, Dave, is that, you know, they went 2 goals down pretty early on in the game, and effectively it was, you know, as good as over. But we know they're spirited, we know they're plucky, and they'll keep going. But I think they're kind of the confidence high after the win in France. I think it's kind of hit a bit of a brick wall today, because they've come up against far superior opposition, and I think even though they've been doing well defensively of late, they've not looked good at the back today.
And the key thing to the game was that Brazil burst the bubble early in terms of that confidence. There's Thiago Silva and David Luiz. Only half cleared really by Nagatomo.
That's an interesting one as well, just watching it, the 2 centre-backs at times. They seem to kind of just change position, just depending on what little sequence has just gone by. And I think against, as you were talking about, the bigger sides in the world, I'm not sure that would go down that well. You know, David Luiz and Thiago Silva just kind of swapping positions at times. That's, you know, that's not really the done thing among centre-backs.
Here's Kaká. Neymar, still on a hat-trick. They've done everything, and I mean everything, but score a 4th. Can't get much closer. Perfectly good goal disallowed. Hit the post twice. Missed an open goal. Somehow you get the feeling that their finishing won't desert them when it matters at a World Cup. It's at the other end where the worries might come.
Yeah, and this was the little one. I'm just looking at Take, the position he'd taken up, and he was appealing for it, and he's gone for the spectacular. Very difficult on that. And probably if he'd looked for a teammate, then it might have paid off.
Kagawa. They certainly deserve a goal, Japan. They very nearly had one on a couple of occasions. You see Zaccheroni, who can't be too broken-hearted at this performance, and he'll have liked the spirit, I would have thought.
Listen, his players will have learned a great deal about, you know, this quality they're up against today. It's all about, you know, gearing towards qualification and then, of course, beyond. And I think a good learning curve for a lot of them, particularly the younger lads.
Here's Sakai. Final 15 minutes here in Poland, and really entertaining and also fascinating game. Dominated by Brazil, but Japan have played a large part as well. Well, that wasn't a particularly clever ball, and it was well read by Paulinho, and here's Kaká with options as well. Going to go on his own though, Kaká for 4. Well, it's hard to say they don't deserve a 4th, and once again it was Brazil on the counter. And once again they chose the right options and took the chance and finished off Japan.
Yeah, and very similar to the goal he scored against Iraq in the fact that he got in that little inside left position. Kaká was able to take it on his left side. He went near post against Iraq. This time he's able to go far post, but it all started because of a poor pass from Yoshida. Brazil nicked it, fed to Kaká. Once he got in position, I mean, there was little Kawashima could do. As soon as he's away from Yoshida, gets a little foot to it, but it was always destined with the pace behind it to find the corner. And I think this is a true reflection of what we've seen today now, with the scoreline being 4-0.
29th international goal for Kaká. Hulk to be replaced by Giuliano. Race for Dnipro. And another of these attacking players we're looking forward to having a look at. Wins his 7th cap at the age of 22. There's still time for this to turn into a hiding as well. Here's Sakai.
I just hope Mano Menezes gets a break now because I don't see an awful lot wrong with this Brazilian side. I mean, we were talking up Japan before and at the start of this game, and Brazil are just dismantling them with ease.
Yeah, even if you were looking to do a hatchet piece on Menezes, you'd struggle, wouldn't you?
Indeed.
I'm sure someone will find a way. As I mentioned, that game in November in New Jersey against Colombia, there's one they have to win. Oscar got a little bit of a kick there, which is unnecessary in the extreme, by Hosogai.
That's Japanese frustration. 4-0 down, just can't get the ball, and okay, it's not the worst out, but he is a little bit late. Hosogai.
Oscar working hard and dropping deep. I think that's something people have been a little surprised by watching him at Chelsea. They expect this flamboyant player. It's much talked about Brazilian, but he has all of those skills, but he does work very hard.
Oh, you've got to. I mean, the game nowadays, they all have got to do their little bit getting back. It just looks very exciting, doesn't it, from a Chelsea viewpoint, with Mata on form and indeed Hazard, and Torres is firing again, and it's with Oscar there, he just seems to have fitted in beautifully.
Of course, remember the other day, Marco Marin hasn't made his debut yet. They signed from Germany. He certainly used to be a great talent. And he's slightly lost his way, but could still make an impact. Here's Ramirez as Brazil look to make an impact in the form of a 5th goal here.
That's what I've enjoyed watching about Brazil today. You know, that if an attack breaks down or they can't find that incisive pass early enough, they just recycle it, draw people out of position, and then there's a runner just in behind and they're at you again.
Field from Neymar. Another measure of just how seriously and important these friendly matches are is only one change. I think a second's about to come, but Brazil have treated this professionally, and notice that about watching them in friendlies. They have to think of these as little competitive games.
Well, it is almost like a training session now and just a game of keep ball. Brazil just happy to knock it about and try and draw Japan out, just make them run, tire them even more, and it's been sumptuous at times. The little skills again from Neymar.
Were people trying to do that when you played? Well, some of these are newly invented, aren't they?
Some of them are. I mean, yeah, there's always been skillful players, but Brazil seem to take it on another level, don't they, when they do it? Something a bit more exciting about it.
Well, can Japan create some excitement? Not quite, and Honda had an option on his left there, but went for goal himself.
Yeah, his finishing has not been great, has it? He's gotten himself in some good positions today, Honda, but that left foot has not really delivered, you know, and he had the pass on to Kagawa as well.
Well, Kaká crowned his performance with this goal, Brazil's 4th. And as you intimated earlier, he may not be the player he was at Milan, but he's still got a lot to offer. And they still love it. Lucas, the man to replace Kaká.
I think he's been excellent today, Kaká. I mean, he just seems to have just played within himself and just found it very easy at his leisure, but very effective in what Brazil have done going forward.
Kiyotake. Now Honda. Again, Sakai getting forward outside him, appeals for a handball. And a first touch for Lucas Moura. Adriano. Neymar again with a fantastic take. Curling effort from Lucas. Given away, and again Japan in danger of just leaving themselves wide open. And the goals have come from mistakes.
They have. Their decision making has been poor at times today, and some of their passing has been quite sloppy. In tight areas like that, you can't afford, because as soon as it's nicked, then you're just on the back foot and in real trouble.
Well, how often do we see teams keep possession comfortably in their own third and then lose it in the final third? Japan have done the opposite today. The passing in the final third has been excellent. They made some really basic errors at their own end of the field. Osagai. Now Sakai did so well to dig out that cross and aimed in towards Inui, turned behind for a corner.
That's great running, and the thumbs up from the ball over the top as well from Sakai. Brilliant running from the fullback to get there and keep it in and keep that move alive. That's wonderful first time, and Thiago Silva had to be sharp.
It was excellent defending as well to not fall asleep. Another change, they're coming thick and fast now. This is the way of things. Neymar gets his ovation. He is a thrilling player, isn't he?
He's a great watch. He really is, Neymar. Okay, this is a bit fortunate because it takes a big deflection to beat the goalkeeper, but he was a threat. He was a threat all afternoon, Neymar. Great movement.
A different sort of player comes on, Leandro Damião. Only going to get 5 minutes. With all the little bits here that Neymar's done. And by the way, earlier on, I wasn't suggesting that players in your era weren't skillful, just that, not in that montage there, but he does one or two things and you just think, not sure I've seen that one. Little shuffles and shifting of the ball. Here's Lucas Moura.
Well, my attitude towards all of that, and probably as a defender you won't be surprised, is that as long as they keep the ball, I don't mind them trying all sorts of flicks. Because when they start giving it away, trying to do something silly or maybe too skillful, that's what can drive me a bit crazy at times.
Yeah, or if they do it to you on the opposition, they might find out about it. Well, they're still a work in progress, they're still a young side, but they are going to be a contender. Just wonder about top teams under pressure, with ways of finding them out, how good Brazil will be, but it'll be a good journey. Here goes Leandro Damião, good first touch from him. And a very good bit of defending from Sakai.
Yeah, it was, and did you notice as well, he just had a little look around the shoulder to know that there was a Brazilian player just behind.
Not sure I see the value in all of the changes towards the end of the game. It's almost like giving away caps, I guess. Ramirez is withdrawn. And Sandro comes on, a familiar figure from the Premier League.
Yeah. The Village Boas will be just hoping now that there's no injury for the remainder of this one. Normal time and what's added on.
Well, they'll still be up against each other at the weekend. Big game for VS Boas. Just a little point to prove for him, maybe. Spurs play Chelsea.
He's made a great start for Tottenham as well this season, Sandro. Ramirez might find it a little harder at times getting in the Chelsea lineup with the additions they've made.
One of the other things about Sandro that not a lot of people know is that a lot of charitable work back in Brazil, and one of those people you sort of see an interview or a profile of him and he clearly a great human being, top fella. Never forgotten where he comes from. Going to be another Japanese corner with a couple of minutes left. They must take heart from this performance. They've been outplayed at times and certainly outfinished. They too are a work in progress. Oscar, the latest to be withdrawn. Fluminense's Thiago Neves to replace him. Can they find a way through then, Japan? Good punch that from Diego Alves. Forward by Thiago Neves. There is still time for Brazil to hurt Japan again here. Lucas. Powerful Damião's in the middle. Lovely feet there from Lucas and watchfully defended.
Yeah, got away with that, Japan, then, because I just thought Endo was just left on his own to try and defend it. He needed support, he needed somebody else coming out behind him to just double up against Lucas.
Thiago Neves to take the corner then. Kiyotake is going to be replaced by Rio Miyachi, still at Arsenal, but on loan at Wigan. And we move into stoppage time at the end of the game. Miyachi making strides. Never a clever time to make a change as Thiago Neves swings it. Now Honda. And there's the offside flag.
That's an over-eager substitute, just desperate to get involved in the game this late and get a touch. And it's just a little step up once he's made the run from Leandro Castan. It's an easy offside decision. We shouldn't be too hard on Japan, I don't think, today. I think they've been totally outplayed by a superior outfit, and you know, they can only hope that they learn some lessons from this. Brazil, it's been a treat again to watch them, to watch their progress towards 2014. There's not too much wrong with what I'm seeing. You know, it's been great to watch. They're so clever on the ball, technically, all gifted, and the movement is just, it's magnificent at times, and it's very hard for opposition to deal with and contain.
And one of the other things that's interesting is that could argue that previous Brazil sides that have disappointed have gone into World Cups overrated and even a little presumptuous. But this is a young and hungry team that, if it fails, will fail because of shortcomings that they know about, defensive ones maybe, but not for want of trying. There is a work ethic and a unity and a belief and a great deal of skill as well. Of course, Japan's defeat here doesn't mean they can't make the quarter-finals of the next World Cup. Might mean they'll struggle to beat Brazil in the final, but that's not maybe what they're aiming at.
Well, I don't think Japan will be organising another friendly against Brazil pre-World Cup. I think they'll want to keep that one well out of the way.
So one final chance maybe for Brazil in the shape of Lucas here. Fantastic running and deserved a goal. Did everything right by the finish.
Well, he knows it. You can see the annoyance in his face because he's just pulled it slightly. It's a lovely little step over to come back on his left-hand side. Now go on, find the corner. And it's just dragged slightly.
Well, the free kick and the last rights here for Japan. There is the final whistle. Brazil so convincing. Japan started well and they played well throughout, but it was the goal from Paulinho, then the penalty from Neymar. A lucky goal for Neymar just after half-time with a big deflection, and a lovely one for Kaká 15 minutes from time. It could have been a lot worse, Jim Beglin, and what we see from Brazil is exceptional.